Welcome to the AxeCast podcast. Conversations with interesting people from the world of Acadia athletics and more, talking about their lives, successes, and failures. And now let's join hosts Glenn Hawley and Eric Cederberg for the next 15 to 20 minutes as they dive into the life of today's guest.
This week on our AxeCast, over the history of men's basketball, many great players have donned the Axeman uniform to play at War Memorial Gym. And one of those players joins us from the class of 2014. Owen Klassen is here all the way from France. Owen, thanks for doing this.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to be on.
Great to have you on here and to talk about, your path to Acadia and your time at Acadia and post Acadia. So we're going to turn the clock back here a little bit, Owen, and take us back to growing up. Obviously, basketball was big in your life. Where you're from and how you decided to come to Acadia.
In terms of playing basketball when I was young, it's kind of a funny story. I grew up in Kingston, Ontario, which is definitely more of a hockey city. So just by, I don't know, sheer being pushed into it by everyone that I was around, I started playing hockey. Didn't even think about basketball, even though my dad had played in university. Realized that when I was growing like crazy, having to buy new hockey equipment every year, I realized pretty quickly that hockey probably wasn't the sport for me. I was like 6'2" or something like that when I was like 12 or 13. So I realized it was time to play a sport where my height actually helped me. So I started playing basketball, not really thinking that it would be something to pursue for the long term. When I realized I was good at it, I just thought this is going to be a way to get my education paid for, and I'm not going to have to worry about that. But definitely, like, playing basketball wasn't the number one thing when I was growing up. I played multiple sports all the way up until the 12th grade. So I was definitely more of like a varied athlete in terms of just trying everything.
Did you say your dad played university basketball?
Yeah, he played for Laurier and Ottawa U.
So growing up, like, what kind of influence was he in terms of, obviously, like you said, basketball didn't come to a little bit later in your upbringing, your growing up and what have you. But, did you go to his games and, did you sort of sit back and go, gosh, I'd sort of like to play, at what point did you sort of sit back and go, I guess you didn't really go to his games. That would have been.
Yeah. We were always more of just like a sports family in general. When I was born, when we were living in Ottawa, my dad actually worked for Sports Canada in some capacity. So we were constantly around all types of sports. So we were always watching basketball games, watching hockey games, watching soccer games, everything on TV. And I mean, basketball definitely, like, I look back at pictures when I was a kid and I have a small Fisher-Price basketball net, and I have the little like blow up basketballs and stuff when I was young, but it was never really a thing where he sort of like pushed me to one sport or another. But when I was growing up, the biggest thing was just to try everything. Like that's what my parents pushed. They put me in soccer when I was young. They put me in lacrosse. They put me in hockey. They put me in everything, and kind of just let me sort of pick which suited me.
I'm willing to pay money, good money, see Owen Klassen on skates.
I haven't been on skates in a while, but I actually do still have a pair of skates. Lucky enough, I stumbled upon a size 15 pair of skates. It's not easy to come by.
Oh, gosh.
Good thing Darren Burns didn't know that. He needed some big wingers about the time. Owen, you know what, starting basketball a little bit later, where you sort of didn't pick it up at a very, very early age. Obviously, you played at a very high level at Acadia, and we're going to get into that here in a minute. But things did you find things came easily for you in the sport in terms of picking up the skills and everything you needed to know?
I think one of the benefits of playing all those different sports was I had pretty good coordination, even though I was growing fast, and like you normally think of the big tall guys as kind of clumsy and have like bad hand-eye coordination. Like I wasn't wasn't really like that. And I think I definitely attribute that to just playing a little bit of everything. So, I mean, obviously being tall helps too. You've got a big advantage when you're playing against all these other kids who are like 5'8" and shorter, and you're 6 feet tall, like can do whatever you want. But I definitely I took to it right away, and I could tell that like it was something that I was going to be good at.
You arrive at Acadia in 2009. So talk about that whole process. How many opportunities you had to go to different places, and why Acadia?
Yeah, choosing a university was a really difficult decision. Like I said before, I didn't like basketball wasn't number one on my list of things. A school that had the program I wanted and could set me up for the future was the most important thing for me. And when I was younger, my family actually took a vacation to the East Coast, and did sort of the Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, PEI, the whole experience. And I kind of fell in love with like the culture out there, and the pace of life, and the friendliness, and just everything that the East Coast has to offer. And I think that was almost like it just slapped me in the face again when I came for my visit. How much of like a small town family sort of vibe you get from even cities in the East Coast. Like Halifax feels like a small town compared to other cities of its size in different places. And I think that helped me feel really comfortable with the East Coast. And then I think part of it was due to Steve Bauer, who was the interim head coach at the time, actually. And he really like explained to me what his sort of vision for the team was, and it seemed like he really had a solid plan, and almost like a 5-year plan of what he wanted to achieve with the program, and not just winning games, but building a program that's constantly like developing players and going in the right direction. And I think that was sort of like the last push that I needed to get me to Acadia. And I did have opportunities elsewhere, but I think the balance of like the excellence in athletics, the how close you get with your professors and the class sizes and everything, like you really, it feels less like a university and more like almost like a high school feel. Like you know everyone, you know the professors, and you feel comfortable talking with them. Where I speak with other people who went to bigger schools, and they say maybe 1 or 2 professors they've ever even had a conversation with. And I think that was really like, I don't know, I just think that's important to me to build those relationships.
You gotta admit now that probably the thing that really locked it in was the "We Want Owen" t-shirts at a game.
Yeah, I don't think the whole t-shirt plan went over exactly as it should have, looking back, because there was like, I think maybe 150 or 200 people at the game that I went to, and most of them wearing t-shirts and didn't even know who I was or what the t-shirt was for. But it was definitely a cool night.
It was, I will always remember it. 25 years at Acadia, and I will always remember the "We Want Owen" night where everyone's wearing it. Yeah. Like you said, I don't think half the people knew why they were wearing it, but hey.
Yeah.
Well, it gets you obviously in 2009, and you look back in history, you obviously were an impact player, rookie of the year, and then personal awards. And just talk about your basketball experience at Acadia.
I mean, it's something I'll always look fondly on. We had some success, but every time I think about it, I just think about how much more we could have achieved, and we had a couple small things here and there that kind of set us back in some aspects. But we definitely did what we set out to do as our goal, and that was put Acadia on the national stage again. A few years before I had come to Acadia, they actually upset Carleton to make it to the national finals, and we wanted that to be something that didn't seem like a crazy thing. We wanted to have our logo up there with all the schools every time the national tournament came around. And I think that's something that we achieved while I was there, and that was really, really important to us.
When you think back of, obviously you talked about Coach Bauer, but you think about teammates and stuff, who are people that stood out for you, maybe that you're pretty tight with even today?
I mean, I keep in touch with a lot of the guys. The biggest ones are going to be the guys that I lived with. That's Anthony Sears and Anthony Ash. Anthony Sears was the first person I met when I got to Acadia. We lived with each other in residence, like in separate rooms, but next door to each other. We ended up living together the entire time we were at school. Anthony Ash came a little bit later. He actually transferred from Carleton a couple years into my career, and we sort of hit it off right away. And those guys are guys that I keep in touch with on a regular basis. And then I would say like the last one is Sean Stokwa, who he was playing football and basketball, which kind of I don't know. We weren't super excited that he was always missing the preseason, but I mean, he's a hell of an athlete, and he's achieved some great things in both sports. But I talk with him like probably 2 or 3 times a month for a couple hours at a time, just because we have such similar interests, like professionally outside of basketball too, that we get along really well.
I think, you've experienced it now at Acadia right through to where you're at now, and culture is so important on a team. And just from viewing the outside, seeing you guys, I thought that was probably pretty important with Steve and with the team itself. When you were here at Acadia, you had a culture that seemed to, I don't know, I never saw any rifts between players or anything. You guys just seemed to all get along and know what your goal was, and you achieved.
Yeah, I think part of that is the same thing that I was talking about, like the small town thing. Like Wolfville's not that big, so after practice, there's only a few places where you're going to eat, and so everyone ends up going together, and you spend so much time with these guys that they're basically family by the end of a year. Like you guys are together more than anyone else. And I think, again, like people I've talked to from bigger schools or going to schools in bigger cities, it seems like they kind of had their personal life separate from their basketball life a little bit more than we did. And for us, like it was all the same thing. We were living with the same people that we practice with, that we go lift weights with, that we go to class with, that we go to, it fosters that like togetherness and sort of like family feel that I think it really helps in terms of like building a cohesive basketball team too.
I mentioned at the beginning of this that we were talking to you and you're sitting in France. So post Acadia, you think about student athletes, once their university 4 or 5 years is complete, usually you're moving on with life in a particular career, whether it's business or science, whatever. So pro aspirations, sort of dissolve. Not for you. You've gone the professional route with basketball. Talk about that road after Acadia and how you landed in France today.
Yeah, it's a really long story. I've been all over the place. Some good experience and some not so good. And I don't know. I value all of them, good and bad, because it's just something else to be able to travel to different countries and even live in different countries and be paid to play basketball. I mean, that's the dream that when you're a kid, you look at the professional athletes and you say, look, I want to be there one day. And in a way I've achieved that. It's not all as glamorous as maybe some people think it to be. The first couple of years when I was first playing in different leagues, you kind of have to work your way up, and there's kind of this feel in Europe that unless you've proved yourself in Europe, you don't really get the same respect. So coming out of NCAA schools, like these guys that are in their first couple of years, you kind of have to fight and claw for every opportunity. And then once you sort of make a name for yourself, then it becomes easier. That being said, with the economic situation from COVID, things seem to be getting a little bit more difficult again across the board. But I was lucky enough to get an opportunity in France, and they have a really good like social security system that covers any like lost wages and stuff from COVID. So we've had an up and down season in terms of being able to actually play games because of restrictions and various lockdowns here and there. But at least like in terms of employment and getting like your salary, France is definitely one of the countries that does a better job of taking care of players and employees. That it's really comfortable.
So your post Acadia career so far, I've tried to follow you, and it's been interesting. But of all the experiences you've had post Acadia, because we know Acadia has been the best experience, but what experience really stands out for you that so far? You know, it's been 6 years, I guess, since you've left, and what's things that have stood out the most for you so far?
Yeah. Basketball is nothing is going to touch going and playing the World Cup. Last year, I was playing in Belgium. I had just signed my contract, and I just got on a flight from Toronto to, I think I went through another airport, but to Brussels eventually. And I knew that Canada Basketball was getting together to start training camp for the World Cup, and I wasn't invited at the time. So got on the plane, flew to my team, did the medical and the first day of practice, and then got a call from the national team saying that it turns out that they do need me, and if I'm willing to fly back, that I would have an opportunity to possibly be on the team for the World Cup. So within the span of like 2 or 3 days, I flew from Toronto all the way to Europe, all the way back to Toronto, and then we ended up flying out to Winnipeg before leaving for Australia for 3 weeks to play exhibition games, and then eventually to China for 3 weeks, I think, to play in the World Cup. And to me, that's going to be something that I never forget. I mean, the World Cup is not as big as it is in soccer, obviously, but it's just like that's you always dream to play for your country and to wear that Team Canada jersey, and for me to have the opportunity to do that at like almost what is one of the highest levels of competition and be relatively successful in playing, I mean, I'm never going to forget that.
Owen, there's so many Canadians that are now playing in the NBA. Like when you left Acadia, how much time would you have spent, you know, maybe through an agent or whatever, trying to explore getting invitations maybe to a camp at that level? Is that something that entered into your, you know, thinking?
Of course you think about it, but I think there's like it's from the outside, it's you feel like there's so many opportunities and so many spots in the NBA, but the NBA is really like such a tight knit sort of organization and group, and like, man, it's really tough to crack in there, especially coming from the CIS rather than the NCAA. Like the same thing that I was saying about Europe, you kind of have to make a name for yourself before you get the respect from the scouts and stuff. So I've had a couple times where I've worked out with the Raptors, and even summers where I've spent a couple weeks playing with like their young guys and stuff, just training. But I mean, at this point, I'm too old to be looked at as like a prospect in the NBA. So they're going to be looking at the young guys, like 19, 20-year-olds that are crazy athletic and super skilled. I mean, the young players that are coming up these days are incredible in terms of what they can do. But I mean, at some point, like you realize that it might be a little bit out of reach. You never take that goal out of your mind that you want to get there. But I mean, I'm happy with the career that I've had and where I've played and made a career out of it. Like I've hopefully won't have to worry about doing a job that I don't like, because I have the security from doing this financially, that I can do something that I like once I finish basketball as well.
I know, Stretch Owen, are you over the hill, late 20s, and obviously have provided you're healthy and what have you, you have more years to play. But have you given thought to the fact that, you know what, 30 is probably not too far away for you? You know, what will you do post basketball?
Yeah, this is something I've been planning for a long time. I mean, like I said, basketball wasn't number one when I started my education at Acadia. I took everything that I needed to do, or every course that I needed to take at Acadia in order to do whatever I want, like health related. And at first, I thought that medicine might be something that I was interested in. Now that I'm a while out of school and looking at probably like another 8 years of education before I could work in that career, it probably is not something that I'm willing to do once I finish. But something like physiotherapy or occupational therapy, chiropractic, something where you're working with the public and with injuries and even like to be working with athletes would be something cool too. Just I've had a lot of experience in terms of like injuries and working with rehab staff and physio staff and stuff, that it's definitely something that I've been interested in since being at Acadia, but even more so now that I've had the opportunity to be around a lot of people working in that profession. So most likely it would be physiotherapy once I finish.
You're never too old to go back to school, Owen. Man, I just read a story the other day that a 56-year-old that had graduated from med school at, I think it was Dal or something. So I thought, I was inspired by it personally. And then my wife just laughed and she said, as if.
It's going to depend on the life situation. I mean, at some point I want to start having a family and stuff, and going back to school for that amount of time when you've got other responsibilities and stuff. I don't know if that's at the top of my list of things to do, but it's still a possibility.
Maybe you can join your former teammate there, Stokwa, with the whole physio element that he's really into now. I see.
Yeah, that's funny that you say that, because we've always spoken with each other about working together, and he's constantly trying to get me to move to Ottawa because it seems like he won't go anywhere else. But I'll probably end up living in Halifax or Nova Scotia somewhere. So.
Right on. Owen, it's been great doing this and catching up and hearing your story from Acadia and before and after. And, you know, you think about all the greats that, again, have played at Acadia over the decades. Your name is right up there with them. And it's so great catching up, and really appreciate you doing this. And hopefully you guys, this COVID thing will be behind us sooner than later and get on the court and play regularly.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you guys having me. It's like you said, it's nice to catch up. Haven't seen you guys in a while, so it's nice to see your guys' faces.